Some years ago, I walked in the foyer of a well-known politician in Jamaica and asked his secretary if I could actually speak with the gentleman. And she said, go ahead. I walked in the office and there was this gentleman around his desk, appears to be busy. And on my entrance, he beckoned that I should have a seat. I sat and I said to him, I've seen you many times on television before, and I've never got an opportunity to speak with you, and today I'm going to do so. The initial discussion should have taken 15 minutes, and we spoke for about 2 hours. Who was that gentleman? Edward Philip George Seaga. So today's discussion, I want to look at none other than Father Eddie, or Eddie, that is well known, called, in terms of what is it that Edward Seaga has done for the people of Jamaica and by extension Jamaicans. So what I always like to do is to give you information, and information that you'll actually rely on in terms of trusted information. So I'm going to ask you before we continue my discussion to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And remember, by doing so, you assist the channel to grow, and I deeply appreciate your effort. I know those persons who have subscribed before. Thank you, and thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, Edward Philip George Seaga, popularly known as Eddie, was born on May 28, 1930, and died May 28, 2019. Now, Edward Seaga, or Eddie, he is Jamaica's fifth Prime Minister. And one needs to understand clearly some sort of background to Edward Seaga. Edward Seaga did a first degree at Harvard University in sociology, majoring in anthropology, and left there, spent some time in Jamaica, and then after that went to Tivoli Gardens to live, or Western Kingston to live, and made a sterling contribution thereafter. Now, Mr. Seaga was well known for a number of things in Jamaica, particularly music and culture. Now, we need to understand clearly that Mr. Seaga at one point had owned a record company that he later sold to Byron Lee and the Dragonaires. Now, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to give you a listing of things that have been done by this gentleman over the years, starting way, way, way back. So 1967 was when Mr. Seaga made a contribution to Jamaica in terms of looking at what is called the Jamaica Citizens Bank. And for those persons who are older than a certain age, and you remember that bank that was in Jamaica, Mr. Seaga was also a pioneer in introducing the Jamaica Stock Exchange in 1968. In 1969, he also did a lot of work in terms of looking at the digitalization of the Jamaica currency. And in the same 1969, he also helped to introduce the merchant bank. Following that, he actually developed the unit trust. He also developed National Development Bank, Agricultural Credit Bank. He also started the Self-Start Fund that was done in 1984. He dealt with the privatization of none other company than NCB in 1986. He was also responsible for the Digiport in Jamaica in 1988. And in 1988 again, Mr. Seaga also looked at a number of other things, including the tree planting program. And he has also done a number of things in terms of social well-being planning. So Mr. Seaga did not finish there. There are other things that we need to also mention of him. He's also the originator of the food stamp program that was done in 1984 and 1985. He's also responsible for the Golden Age Home. And I need not speak to you about that debacle, which one of these days I'm going to actually do. He's responsible for the LEAP program, which is Learning and Earning Activity program that was done in 1988 as it initiated. He's also responsible for PACE, that is Program for Advancement of Early Childhood Educators. Mr. Seaga responsible for that. All right, and he also is responsible for UW and UT residential halls. All right. So Mr. Seaga has done extensive things. And in 1971, he's also responsible for the National School Feeding Program. And I remember as a child, I usually enjoy the buns, not so much the patties, but I usually enjoy the buns. Um, the Golden Age movement that was introduced in 1965 was also Mr. Seaga's responsibility. And of course, none other than Hart. So, Mr. Seaga's made a significant contribution in terms of the Jamaican landscape as it relates to finance, music, and culture. Now, within that context, what I want to speak to you today about was Mr. Seaga a builder. All right. Now, when you look at what is it that Mr. Seaga has contributed to in terms of the sterling things that I've mentioned before, substantially those things more so helped the upper and middle class in terms of Mr. Seaga's contribution. And of course, a few of them really benefited the masses of people. Now, when one looks at, say, for example, a program relating to heart, or for example, the food stamp program, or the early childhood education program, or the feeding of actual children, those things are substantive things that will significantly enhance the lives of people and by extension development. Remember carefully that one of the key components of development is education. Mr. Seaga has made a marginal contribution in terms of the educational space for Jamaicans. So when we look at what Mr. Seaga has done, as I said before, was Mr. Seaga a builder in Jamaica? And I have seen all the things and I've looked at all his contribution. Of course, I've actually spoken to the gentleman. And of course, I give a lot of credence to the gentleman who had an opportunity to speak with me on a number of things that he did in Jamaica and why he did them. And of course, I can appreciate that. But when you see the things that he has done, I will say Mr. Siaka was not a builder in terms of Jamaica or the substantive people of Jamaica. What Mr. Siaka's party substantially did, and by extension, his contribution to Jamaica, a number of persons benefited. And so he laid some, in terms of somewhat of a template or a roadmap for culture and sports and music in Jamaica. Mr. Seaga is clearly a pioneer in terms of that and has made that sort of contribution. But outside of that space, Mr. Seaga is not a builder of the people of Jamaica. And when I say people of Jamaica, I talk about the masses. But somebody will say, what happens when Mr. Seaga did the thing relating to free zone? The free zone project was, in my opinion, exploitation of labor, even though a number of persons got work in the process, but that was substantially sweat labor. And sweat labor to me is not development and cannot be constituted as development. A number of persons got work, but did it substantially benefit the people of Jamaica? Absolutely not. So when one looks at all the things that Mr. Seaga has done over his time, nothing is there to substantiate to me as a scholar and an academic to say Mr. Seaga built Jamaica. And I'm not referring here now to anything outside of his party. I'm talking about specifically to him and what he has contributed to Jamaica. All the things that Mr. Seaga has done substantially have actually laid the basis for financial issues relating to Jamaica, and particularly individuals actually becoming wealthy and having resources. That is not the masses of people benefiting from all of those things that Mr. Seaga has done. No, my argument may come across to some persons as being one in which I am anti Mr. Edward Seaga, and far from the truth. I am providing people with trusted information that they can use to go and analyze things and look at things. Free zone is not a development of the people of Jamaica to me. Heart, development of some individuals in Jamaica. And all the things relating to commercial banks and music benefited some persons in Jamaica. Mr. Seaga's contribution to Jamaica is without a doubt Great, but there's nothing to substantiate to me as a scholar that Mr. Seaga substantially contributed to the massive development of Jamaicans. Those are my views. What are yours? Let's have a discussion on the matter. You may rant, you may rave. Let's have a discussion. A discussion that we can ferment argument, discuss issues, and come to a logical conclusion as to whether I am right or wrong. As a result, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you very much.